Hi, everybody. This is Going Public. I am Harry McCullough. We're joined today with David Rabelais, of course, the Executive Director of the Terrebonne Port Commission. Dave, thanks so much for being here. New year.
Yeah.
New stuff going on. Well, Happy New Year, first of all. How you doing,
Same to
man?
you. Same to you.
Good?
I'm doing good, and I'm happy to be here. And New Year to get started on. Hopefully, it's better than last year.
Yeah, for sure. So as we go into a new year, do things change financially about how you have to approach different things? And
No, the fiscal year for federal government ends in the end of September. So that's their year end. So but they're always behind, and
Sure.
it's always you never even pay attention to that anymore because they're so far behind on getting their budgets approved. Like they don't approve the budget that's supposed to start in October until February or March. Because of all the noise going on over there.
Are there certain things that you have to meet a deadline before a year comes around, right? Because hey, this has to be done by
there's
this time
grants
we go back.
and there's requests that you have to have in by a certain time, both state and federal. Yeah. So we have to follow a schedule. They don't. That's just the way it is.
Hey, the guys with the money make the rules,
and
right?
that's the way it goes, man. How's that saying go? Whoever has the gold makes the rules. Whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
Whoever rules the gold makes the rules.
Yeah.
So, no doubt. So let's talk about, obviously, we're always talking about dredging. We're always keeping that channel as best we can so we can have commerce going up and down. We had talked about dredging north of Cocodrie. A lot of times we talk about south of Cocodrie.
That's the main area we dredge
Right.
is south of Cocodrie. We never dredge north, but now we are.
We are headed. And
Yeah.
is because the whole thing, you're going to eventually...
No, it's in segments. They're gonna call it, they're gonna dredge in one area and then they're gonna move a couple miles and gonna dredge another area. It just wherever it shoals in.
But why are we going north now? Because they want to deepen the entire thing?
No, I think because of the hurricane when we had the north wind and it broke the Bubba Dove open and it dug a big hole. I think we got a lot of sediment that went and just scattered everywhere. And it builds up over time. We rarely get any material coming north to south. It's mostly just water coming off the intercoastals, not very much sediment. But it does, it does accumulate after 10 years. You have little areas, and that's what we're doing. We had some money left over, and we've been wanting to do this for about 4 or 5 years. Just, the need wasn't as great as the money. So, finally we had a little extra money, and we decided to do it.
Yeah, hopefully, and that'll lead to bigger boats coming all the way up and reaching our facilities where we can work on those kind of structures and
More
do those
jobs,
kind of things.
more
Right.
jobs. We got to keep everybody working.
So where are we at? What's the latest on the north?
Well,
Cocodrie dredging?
Apollo Environmental is the company that they awarded the contract to. They have a dredge out there named the Sandra G, and they begin dredging on December 15th. The contract has a total of 15,000 cubic yards, 8.4 miles of length of channel to be dredged, but it's not continuous. It's non-continuous, so they're going to dredge a little area and then they're going to move forward. So they, work accomplished through January 2nd is only 44,000 cubic yards, which was about 3,510 foot of advance, which is the length that they dredged. And this is only about 10% of the dredge volume. So they working outbound in the vicinity of mile 24 and 25, which is not too far from Cocodrie. It's not north of Cocodrie. And then they're gonna get finished with that area, and then they'll move in another area. So I think there's 3 or 4 areas. I think it's 4 areas that they're gonna dredge. And the completion date is gonna be April 19th. So we just keep pushing them and making sure that they doing what they're supposed to do.
Okay, so then you got the H&C Bay dredging?
So what happened is, of course, we always silted in the bay, and we
So this is south of Cocodrie.
south of Cocodrie, the last 10 miles, and so that doesn't stop. Every year we have to do it. This year we have some economy or some boats that need to get out and some boats that need to get in, kind of like in the spring of this year. Normally we wait till the summertime to dredge, but we do have some bad areas. We had a few boats run aground around mile 7. So we got with the Corps and said, look, let's go ahead and put out a contract early this year, and that's what they did. So there's a contract out on the street. It's being advertised. What they're going to do is they're going to resurvey the channel in that area in the next week or so, and they're going to issue an amendment to the bid that's already out on the street, because that's going to define the areas that they're going to have to dredge and the amount of material. And they should be ready by the end of this week with that additional additional information, and put that amendment out so that we can get the bid in. The bid opening will be around January 24th, with a contract awarded by the end of January. Specifications require the dredge to start production within 10 days of notice to proceed, so dredging should begin around mid-February.
What happens when you say a ship runs aground? They don't just get stuck out there, right? But they can feel the bottom. What's the process?
Sometimes they get stuck, and they got to get somebody to pull them off. The channel is kind of.
Does it damage the boats when it happens?
A lot of times, it messes up the bottom. It peels the paint off. It could break props. It could,
yeah.
They have bow thrusters and a lot of different things on these high technology boats, and it's very critical. The way the channel silts in is it's strange. The channel has moved. The Corps has moved the channel. Sometimes it'll silt in on one side before the other side. Okay, and if boats on the one side of the channel and they motoring along, they'll hit a sandbar.
I was about to say it's sand.
Yeah,
right?
It's
not
silt,
mud
it's sand.
or whatever,
Yeah, and they'll have to get somebody to pull
not
them
rocks.
off. They'll contact the Coast Guard, and the Coast Guard will contact everybody, and they contact me, and I contact the Corps, and we go out and survey it to identify the area and make sure that they were in the channel, because sometimes they get out of the channel and they don't even realize it. So,
Right.
it happens, and that's we deal with that every year. So.
You said there's a couple of boats waiting to get in and a couple waiting to go out?
Yeah, some big vessels the big contracts that some of these contractors have, and we try to work with industry. We tell them to let us know, like when Gulf Island used to sail out all those jackets and decks.
Right.
They had to have the dredging done prior to, and they always knew long range, like, okay, we're going to be delivering this in a year and a half, which is the same as these boats. One of the tenants will say, look, we got a boat that needs to go out, in March or in April, and it draws a lot of water. Or we got a boat coming in, it's a lot of jobs, and so we try to work with them. We're going to dredge it anyway. And so we get with the Corps, and we just do what we have to do, to keep everything going. The Corps is working to expedite the dredging as fast as they can. Let's see. Based on the December 22 surveys, the dredging will be between mile 5 and 10 to clean up the channel over 1,000 feet of length of cut. And the depths are worst around mile 7, which we just talked about. That's where they've been running aground.
So dredging is different than deepening, right? So as we moved in, you can also be deepening.
Maintenance dredging, deepening.
I got
That's and what we do every year is maintenance dredge. It's a 15-foot authorized depth, okay, and they allow us to go 2 feet deeper. So the maintenance dredging happens every year in the bay, and they dredge down to the authorized depth. When we deepen, we're going to come in and just go 5 feet deeper. So we're still going to have to maintenance dredge every year, just like we're doing now, until we get our rocks on the east side of the channel, which I want bad, but it costs a lot of money, and I don't see it happening, but
Right.
I don't see it happening anytime soon. But maybe once we deepen, we may be able to convince them to add the rocks, and at least in some areas. Okay, some areas are worse than others. The barrier island, Timberlake Island, is falling in the channel. It's migrating to the west, and it just falls in the channel, and that's what we have. And it depends on the prevailing winds, the angle of the prevailing winds. It's always east to west, but some years it may be a little more northeast.
get a hurricane.
Northwest, and
Right.
so we'll get shoaling at mile 7. Some years it'll be shoaling at mile 3. It just depends on how the winds are. But it's a constant battle, and we've got to spend money every year, federal dollars, but
Right.
we have to beg for it, and that's the problem. If it was automatic and they would give us whatever we need, it'd be easy. We'd call them up, hey, look, when y'all gonna dredge,
Right.
and get out there, but it's the fact that we have to beg for the money, because the Corps can't beg for the money. All they can do is sit there and wait for the government to send them
Tell
the
them what
money.
to do, right.
So we got to go to our delegation and you know, pound the pavement, and they got to, you know, we got 6 congressmen, okay? California's got 87 or something like that, okay, or 57. I don't know what the number is, but it's, you know, so our guys have to give all the time to the California guys, okay, or ladies, whatever, Congress people, and to get our stuff when we need it, you know. And so people say, "Well, I'd vote no for that." Well, you can't. You know, you gotta play the game, or you don't get the money. So it's just politics, and you know, our guys do a great job. I mean, we have a great group of legislators, you know, in the Senate and in the House.
Scalise and Graves, well, all of them. Yeah, I don't mean to count anybody out, but
we'll talk about Scalise coming up.
They're going through that process right now of electing leadership for the new
Scalise
Congress.
could end up Speaker of the House.
Right,
okay?
right. That's what I'm saying.
He could.
There's a lot.
I mean,
They're playing a lot of politics up there right now.
not out of the question.
All on the right side right now as they do the House stuff. So that's something real interesting. So we'll talk a little more about the deepening and the progress of that. And but let's take a break, and when we come back, we'll go into the deepening and we'll get to all those issues.
All right.
We'll be right back on Going Public right after this.
Led by a 7-member commission, the Terrebonne Port was created to assist our local industry in promoting economic development. We monitor government regulations that affect our local industry and work with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers to secure maintenance dredging funds. Because the HNC is the main artery for the heartbeat of Terrebonne's economy, Terrebonne Port fights a constant battle for funding to maintain the federally authorized navigable depth. We are now leasing waterfront and non-waterfront property. Terrebonne Port Commission, serving our industry to keep Terrebonne thriving.
A new company with a lot of history. GIS Engineering has rapidly grown its brand around an experienced team of professionals. GIS Engineering is a full-service planning, engineering, procurement, and construction management company specializing in coastal protection and restoration, upstream and downstream industrial, and transportation infrastructure projects. Putting people first, GIS Engineering, a new company with a lot of history.
In South Louisiana, storms are a way of life. Every storm poses a different threat, whether from flooding or hurricane-force winds. At All South Consulting Engineers, we help protect our people from these disasters. Before a storm, we work with our leaders to prevent catastrophic damage. After the storm, we help get the resources needed for rebuilding. We have helped our cities, parishes, and school boards recover over $2 billion to rebuild our community. We'll be here for the next one.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Going Public. Harry McCullough here. We're joined by David Ravelette, Executive Director of Terrebonne Port Commission. So we had talked a little bit before the break about the deepening process, which is different from dredging. So tell me where we're at
it's still
on that.
dredging, but
Right,
it's
right.
a different. It's
Right.
a different end of the dredging, I guess. You
Right.
know. Well, you know, as you know, we have to do all the local obligation stuff of the deepening, and it's the LERDs. Okay, we talked about that before.
Sure.
The land easements and rights of ways and all that, but we mainly focused on the pipeline lowering. We have a lot of pipelines across the channel, especially in that lower reach, the Bay reach, and we identified 12 in that area. That we have 12 out of 17 pipelines identified, and they're working. I think they're working on 2 more. The 17 number came out of the study, and I don't think they had all 17. Okay, when we actually got out there, the study was done in between 2010 and
Some of them might be
2020.
abandoned or whatever.
Yeah. And so we identifying them. We're meeting with the pipeline companies. They actually lower them. We identify them. We meet with them. We get the right-of-way agreements that were signed when it was first installed to make sure, we can't make them pay for it, okay? But normally, we pay for it, but they actually do the work.
Do the work.
Because they're not going to let anybody else touch their pipelines, you know, especially active pipelines,
Sure.
and I don't blame them, you know.
So they can actually have those things working and lower them?
No, I think they have to
They
take
shut
them out
'em
of
off,
service
right,
to
I
do
got you.
that, but still,
active,
they still
right.
don't want anybody
Sure.
else fooling with their pipelines, and we don't want to fool with them ourselves, you know.
Sure.
We'd rather they do it, you know. So we're generating drawings of each pipeline so that we can sit down with the oil companies and say, okay, this is what we want to do, and we give them all the drawings, and they take them and they you know, get their contractors and bid it out to their contractors, because it's a contractor thing too. You know, I mean, there's a lot of contractors that do it, but these oil companies have faith in certain ones, and that's the ones they want to use.
Sure.
You know,
I don't blame them. Because
and
if they got a drop of oil that's out there, they're going to pay for it, right?
Exactly. And you know, they got to take the line out of service, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And whoever the end users are that are paying them are not getting the product, so they're not getting paid. So they
Right.
want to do it as efficiently and as fast as they can to put them back in service, you know?
Okay. So Washington, we talked about that a little bit. Scalise, who knows? They've tried 3 times with the Speaker of the House. He may end up in a leader. He's going to be in a leadership position.
Yeah,
I would
he
imagine,
will
anyway.
be the second guy in charge, which I forget. It's the not the whip, but the majority speaker. Okay,
Right. Mm-hmm.
That's his position if McCarthy gets in as speaker, but McCarthy is not doing. You know, I think they.
Actually facing opposition from far right candidates.
Yeah, and I think they. Somebody told him, you might have said it, they've already
times.
went 3 times and he didn't get it, and so there's a chance that you know, that Scalise, because his name was, I watched a little bit of it at noon on the news, and his name was mentioned several times by some of the guys that didn't want
Right.
McCarthy. So if you know, he could be in he's in line for it. If it's offered to him, I'm sure he will take it. I hope he takes it. You
That'll
know?
be interesting, yeah, if they go against McCarthy. You know, we did have a speaker for, about a couple of days, it seemed like Bob Livingston
Yeah,
back
he-
in
yeah.
the 19,
And then he resigned,
1992.
yeah.
But we'll see what happens, but either way, to have somebody in leadership like that should help out with federal projects
Oh,
and that kind of
absolutely.
stuff.
And look, Scalise is great to work with. I mean, he's very good at what he does. Him and Garrett, they're great leaders. And so the way it was working out, if McCarthy had got in as speaker, I mean, he still could. I don't know.
Yeah,
More
more than
It's
likely.
not over with.
Yeah, more than likely.
But Scalise would have been number 2. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
and then Garrett will be very senior member on the House Transportation and Infrastructure Committee. Julia Letlow will have seniority as an appropriator. I don't even know what that is. Mike Johnson is also making his way up the food chain as well. The House delegation has positioned itself very well. On the Senate side, Louisiana gained seniority because so many senators retired last year. Senator Cassidy is ranked number 59 overall out of 100, and Kennedy is at 72. So that's good. I mean, the higher they get, or the closer they get to 1, you know,
Right.
The better. So let's see. Cassidy is moving up a Senate Finance Committee roster with 2 more senior members recently retiring, so he gets moved up a little quicker. And Senator Kennedy is moving up the Senate Banking Committee roster with 2 more senior members either retiring or moving committees. But you got to remember too that Kennedy may run for governor, okay? And if he runs for governor, then we lose that seniority, all right? So it's just the way it goes, you know. By the end of the month, there'll be more information on the policy front after all of this noise on this speaker is done with regard to appropriation deadlines, the direction Republican House leadership will be going, and also how the Congress will behave. We have a Senate controlled by Democrats, a House controlled by Republicans, and a White House controlled by Democrats. Not much of great magnitude is expected to be done. I mean, it's going to be, the House is going to pass, it's going to be a Republican House, they're going to pass bills, send it to a Democratic Senate. Senate doesn't even have to hear them if they don't want to, but if they do hear them and it ends up passing and it goes to the president doesn't have to sign it, okay? So You know, but as long as the House does what they're supposed to do and get the bills out that we need to get out, you know, the others will have egg on the face, so that it'll be the others' fault.
Sure.
So we just got to hope that.
Well, 2024 is not too far away, so they'll
Yeah.
be running for president
Yeah,
here
that's
before
true,
you know
yeah.
it. So the DOTD, so the Secretary is Sean Wilson.
Correct.
So how much impact does that have, the Secretary of
Well, he's
Transportation?
definitely qualified. I mean, and like, if you remember, when Bell Edwards ran his the first time, he's in his second term now, but when he ran the first time, it was one Democrat and 3 or 4 Republicans. They had Vitter, Darden, couple others. I don't remember
Right.
all of them.
Oh, yeah.
I think it was 3.
Yeah.
So when I looked at him, I said, well, you know, I didn't even know him, and I said, you know, he's kind of coming out from nowhere, and you got these 3 Republican workhorses. But what happens is we have one primary system, so that they all run together. They don't run
Took off each
four
other,
four
yeah.
Republicans together and pick one, and run 4 Democrats and pick one, and then those 2 go head to head. If that was the case, we would always have a Republican governor, because we're a majority
smart
Republican
red state.
state.
Yeah.
But the way it's done is that they'll have, like with Bell Edwards, he was, you know, Bell Edwards against 3 Republicans, and they beat each other up, and it ended up
Him and Vitter.
him and Vitter was like, you know, at that time,
Kinda toxic.
he had a lot of baggage, and you know, so he didn't make it. And Bell Edwards has done a great job. I mean, he's right in the middle. He's a Democrat,
Right.
but he's in the middle.
He's a right-wing Democrat.
And that's where I am. You know, I mean, so you got to give and take. You know,
Absolutely.
it can't be all your way. And so I think he's done a great job for us, especially for ports, because he doubled. Let's see. Yeah, he doubled the Port Priority Program, which is a program that ports in the state of Louisiana get funding from and build projects. And it's a very well put together grant program, and it helps ports a lot. Because what happens is they give us the money, we build the infrastructure, and the tenant leases the infrastructure back from the port, but the port doesn't have to pay the state back. Okay, so that's funding that we get to build additional infrastructure, to do dredging, to do do emergency projects, and it helps us out a lot.
Which is so important, and part of that infrastructure bill was all the ports, but we have a bunch of ports here.
36 ports in the state,
Right.
and the smaller ports like the Terrebonne port, we were emerging for a long time, and we still small compared to a lot of them, but Port Priority, we got 3 or 4 port priority programs that we built already, and we're getting funding from all 4 of them. So that's, I mean, we couldn't do better
Right.
with anything else. I mean, it's been, it got us off the ground and got us where we are today, and it does that to a lot of small ports.
No doubt. Future, as we're looking forward, wind energy. Are we going to see any benefits from that?
Well, you know, my take on wind energy is, and let me get to it here.
Sorry, I skipped
It's
that.
okay. It's okay. You skipped a lot. My perspective is we have an alternative energy opportunity for a cleaner environment that needs to realistically mesh with economic development and jobs. Okay, so if they come in and they want 5 windmills built instead of 5 jackets and decks for the oil and gas industry, we get the same amount of work, or even more, you know? And so as long as we can keep that going,
Work, right.
you know,
care
we
what
got to
it's
keep
doing.
our people working. We got to keep our economy going, and that's how you do it. So I see it as it's an opportunity that's going to come, you know, and you can't get rid of the oil and gas industry like everybody says. It'll never happen. You always will need hydrocarbons. But, you know, if you could supplement some of it with cars and with electricity and all that, it will help the environment, okay? It'll clean up, make the environment cleaner, and everybody's for that.
Everybody's for
You
that.
know,
Yeah,
so-
but everybody's for jobs, and you
So
can't just put
it's a
people
big
out of work.
industry, and we need to position this region with the right infrastructure to tackle this opportunity. So we're going to continue to monitor it and make sure that we're putting ourselves in the right place to keep our people working.
Absolutely. With David Ravelay, we sure appreciate your time. Thanks for the update.
You got it.
All right, that'll do it for this edition of Going Public. I'm Harry McCullough. We'll see you next time.